I'm just going to remember, since we have a movie star here, that it was a movie star, George Clooney, who really affected this election. I mean, Biden might still be in there if George Clooney, you know, talk about celebrities and how important they are. I don't think they're important in getting the voters to do something, but they sure were important in getting the party heads to finally do that.
Hold on tight, because we are about to take a deep dive into one of the most sensational, shocking, and downright unbelievable Hollywood scandals of 2025. This one is bound to leave you speechless. George Clooney, a name that has long been associated with charm, sophistication, and an almost untouchable status in the film industry, now finds himself at the heart of a career meltdown so intense, so unexpected, that it feels like a scene straight out of one of his own blockbuster disaster movies. The storyline? A fierce and very public feud that has shaken Hollywood to its core, turning into one of the most talked about controversies in recent memory. Who is at the center of all this chaos? Bill Maher, the razor-sharp and unapologetically opinionated host of Real Time, is at the center of all this chaos. If you believe Hollywood thrives on drama, this clash elevates it to a new level. It's as outrageous as it is riveting. But before we fully immerse ourselves in this whirlwind of scandal, betrayal, and complete public embarrassment, let me take a moment to say, thank you for being here. You're not going to want to miss a second of what's about to unfold. Now fasten your seatbelts, because this roller coaster of a story is just getting started. It all began with what should have been a simple, well-intentioned political advertisement. A project that Clooney had hoped would solidify his activism and reaffirm his position as a cultural influencer in an ever-evolving world. The goal was clear: to make a strong statement, inspire change, and remind the public of his unwavering commitment to important social causes. But instead of making headlines for all the right reasons, the ad backfired in the most catastrophic way possible. And when I say it flopped, I mean it went down in flames, crashing harder than even Clooney's biggest box office misfires from the past. The response? Brutal. The criticism? Unforgiving. It wasn't just a mild misstep. It was an all-out disaster. The backlash was immediate, relentless, and impossible to ignore. And if you haven't seen it yet, well, brace yourself. Take a look for yourself and see exactly what went so horribly wrong.
Come on, boys. Let's make America great again. It's your turn, buddy.
Before you cast your vote in this election, think about how it'll impact the people you care about the most.
Daddy!
Remember, you can vote any way you want, and no one will ever know.
Do your patriotic duty.
You bet I did, brother.
What happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls.
Paid for by Vote Company.
Critics wasted no time in tearing into George Clooney, branding him as tone-deaf, out of touch, and, perhaps worst of all, desperately pandering. Now, let's be honest, everyone makes mistakes. Even the biggest stars have their fair share of missteps. But this wasn't just a minor blunder. This was an all-out nosedive down the unforgiving staircase of public opinion. While Clooney had managed to navigate Hollywood's turbulent waters before, the landscape had changed drastically. The tides of public perception were now more unpredictable than ever, and this time, the backlash spread like wildfire. The once untouchable movie icon was suddenly facing an uncomfortable reality. His reputation wasn't as indestructible as it once seemed. Determined to reclaim control of his narrative and mend his rapidly deteriorating public image, Clooney made a daring decision. He embarked on an ambitious media tour, an all-or-nothing effort to reshape public perception. But this wasn't just any promotional circuit. It was a high-stakes make-or-break campaign designed to either restore his credibility or send him spiraling further into irrelevance. The linchpin of this entire strategy? A sit-down on Real Time with Bill Maher. Clooney's team believed they had the perfect plan. The idea was simple, yet powerful. He would appear on Maher's show, captivate the audience with his signature charm, deliver a heartfelt and carefully crafted apology, and offer thought-provoking political insights that would remind the world why they respected him in the first place. On paper, it seemed like a surefire way to reclaim the spotlight and shift the public's focus back to his intellect and activism rather than his recent blunders. Sounds like a solid strategy, right? Well, not so fast. Bill Maher, never one. To be easily swayed, wasn't having it. Clooney's team, confident in their approach, pitched the idea expecting an enthusiastic response. But Maher immediately rejected it, reportedly telling them in no uncertain terms, this isn't a platform for celebrity rehabilitation. Ouch. Despite this initial setback, Clooney's team refused to back down. They came back with an even more enticing proposal. This time, they sweetened the deal by offering an exclusive interview packed with bombshell revelations, a tell-all moment where Clooney would address his critics head-on. The pitch promised a media spectacle, the kind that would dominate headlines for weeks and generate the kind of buzz Maher's show thrived on. But Maher wasn't buying it. He saw through the strategy and reportedly dismissed it, fearing that featuring Clooney in such a capacity would alienate his loyal audience, viewers who tuned in for sharp political discourse, not Hollywood damage. Control. Maher wasn't just rejecting Clooney, he was making a statement about the broader culture of celebrity influence in politics. And then, he took it a step further. During a discussion about the role of celebrities in shaping political narratives, Maher couldn't help but weigh in. So, we have a movie star, George Clooney, who supposedly influenced this election, he mused. While he didn't outright dismiss the impact of Hollywood figures, he made it clear that he believed their political opinions held little weight compared to real policymakers. The message? Clooney's attempt to reassert himself as a thought leader wasn't just unnecessary, it was irrelevant. By this point, it was no longer just about declining an interview. It was a symbolic rejection. Clooney's team, now teetering on the edge of desperation, pushed forward with one final attempt. This time, they proposed a live, unscripted Q&A session where Clooney would directly engage with audience members, answering unfiltered questions and demonstrating his sincerity. If there was ever a way to prove he wasn't afraid of public scrutiny, this was it. Maher, however, remained unimpressed. For a third time, he turned Clooney down, doubling down on his stance that real time wasn't the place for redemption arcs. The rejection was final. At this point, Clooney had exhausted every conventional option. But rather than admit defeat, he made one last-ditch effort, this time reaching out to Maher directly. He personally proposed an unscripted, candid conversation, hoping that an informal approach might convince the talk show host to reconsider. Maher's response? A resounding no. Insiders claim that Maher bluntly told Clooney, "This show isn't a venue for celebrity redemption arcs." To Maher, this wasn't about boosting ratings or capitalizing on a viral moment. It was about maintaining the credibility and integrity of his program. And for him, that meant refusing to let Real Time become a platform for Clooney's comeback. What had initially been a strategic setback for Clooney had now turned into a full-scale humiliation. This was a man who had spent decades being one of Hollywood's most adored figures, someone who could open doors with nothing more than a smile. And yet here he was, being publicly and decisively shut down, over and over again. As tensions simmered behind the scenes, Maher reportedly couldn't resist taking a few extra digs at Clooney in private conversations. According to insiders, he openly mocked the actor's repeated attempts to get on the show, allegedly describing Clooney's desperation as pathetic and even likening it to auditioning for a pity party. And of course, in true Hollywood fashion, those private jabs didn't stay private for long. Word got back to Clooney, and let's just say he wasn't amused. But Maher didn't stop there. During one of his monologues, he casually slipped in a few not-so-subtle barbs directed at Hollywood elites, particularly those who believed their political opinions outweighed their box office numbers. While Maher never explicitly named Clooney, anyone following the unfolding drama could connect the dots. Clooney, however, wasn't about to let this feud slide. His team, recognizing the damage that had been done, pivoted to other media outlets. They began pitching him for high-profile interviews on programs like The Howard Stern Show. But even Stern, known for his no-holds-barred interviews, hesitated. According to sources, his team was wary of tying the show to Clooney's rapidly deteriorating public image. Behind closed doors, Clooney's frustration was boiling over. The once charming actor, whose career was built on effortless charisma, was now unraveling in real time. He was reportedly lashing out at critics, growing increasingly agitated as doors that once swung open for him were now slamming shut. Meanwhile, Maher remained steadfast. Though he never explicitly mentioned Clooney's name in his public commentary, the underlying message was unmistakable. This was no longer just a professional disagreement. It had become a power struggle. And in Maher's eyes, by keeping Clooney off his show, he was making a statement about the authenticity of his platform. And so, here we are. What started as a simple Hollywood controversy has spiraled into one of the most talked about scandals of the year. But this isn't just about an actor's downfall or a talk show host's refusal to play along. It's about something much bigger, a cultural shift in Hollywood, where social media outrage and public sentiment now dictate the fate of even the most established stars. So, the million-dollar question: does George Clooney still have a chance at redemption? Or is this the moment that finally marks the end of his reign in Hollywood? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this story is far from over. What do you think? Has George Clooney's Hollywood fairy tale turned into a full-blown tragedy? Or does he still have a shot at reclaiming his throne? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this ever-evolving saga.